What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Canadian Football Fanatics podcast. Blake and I coming at you for a BC Lions preview. First of our new series here on the channel. Blake and I are going to be coming at you from now on a weekly basis to preview the Lions game ahead. Instead of doing it on the weekly show, Blake and I thought we'd take some time to kind of, focus more on our Lions more specifically, not to, exclude any of our listeners that are, league-wide fans, anything like that. And we can kind of gravitate towards more of our Lions fans and Lions listeners and stuff like that. And spend a little bit more time selfishly, on our team and not have to feel bad for, Coach and Shane taking up all the time talking Lions and previewing the game and stuff like that. So, like we mentioned on the weekly show, can expect to see us from now on for a preview video a day before the game. So we'll release it Saturday morning for this week. And unfortunately, this will be the first week in a little bit now that we're doing the post game shows that we won't be doing one this week, just both with Blake and I's schedule. But after that, it'll be back to your regular scheduled program. Two BC Lions shows, two shows every week. Excuse me, on BC Lions content. So Blake, as I introduce you, buddy, how you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. You and I were talking. We're both happy that this is being recorded on or released on Saturday, so it'll be a moot point by the time it's released. But you and I are looking forward to the weekend and days off.
Abso-freaking-lutely, my friend. And I sound like I'm probably a complainer to most because we're actually coming off a short week with the the August long
I know.
holiday Monday I had. But just I think that time of year, you're into August now. You can feel the summer starting to get away from you a little bit and get out of the fingertips, and you want to enjoy every last little bit of that, and you don't want to be stuck at work and stuff. So that's just how I've been feeling lately, and especially when the weekend, is full of football, especially Canadian football. I can't wait to get there and. Excited for this weekend. It's gonna be a lot of football for myself, and hopefully I'll be able to get a tan in the process. So let's get into it, Blake. BC Lions football. I know, I know we don't want to, but let's spend a couple minutes here. We shared quickly our thoughts on the weekly show. Obviously, last week, the Lions just I would just say completely didn't show up offensively. Like I mentioned on the weekly show, I really thought the defense battled and kept the team in there for three quarters. At least a half of football, kept them within striking distance, and would salute them for their efforts. And offensively, it was just really quite shocking to see the performance, and then ultimately the last gut punches, Vernon Adams going down. It seems like we've avoided disaster, but still overall tough performance. 25-0 to get shut out in the CFL, especially with the field position we were getting early on. I know Moj and Baker were talking about it on I believe the first or their pub series show.
First on tap.
Yeah, first on tap, and mentioning about their early field position there of having the ball, in plus territory a few times around midfield and just not being able to do anything. With a field goal kicker like Sean White with that field position, all you need is a first down or two, and you get in his field goal range to get at least a point. Maybe if not, maybe you're bringing out your punter to maybe get a single that bounces into the end zone, something like that. So just crazy and shocking, like I mentioned, and definitely wanted to talk a little bit about it. We won't spend too much time, but I want to avoid any of the haters that are trying to say that we're glossing over it or anything like that. But to me, I think it's just a game that's going to happen, right? Like I mentioned on the weekly show again, is ups and downs, peaks and valleys. You're going to have some games throughout a season. I think very fondly people don't want to remember, but the six interception game last year from Vernon Adams, those are
Yeah,
just going to happen, right? The guys on the other side of the field are paid just like we are, right? Or just like we are, just like the Lions
I
are,
wish
right?
we
So
were.
I agree. I wish we were as well. But they're professionals. They don't want to get embarrassed. They're going to make some plays from time to time. So I think, like I mentioned, a game that you really want to just don't. You might not even want to watch the tape once, but go through it once, burn it from there. You move on to the Edmonton Elks, and I hope I believe the boys played on Thursday last week. They probably had the whole weekend to kind of stew on this, really get motivated for this Edmonton Elks team, who a lot of people, including ourselves, are maybe counting them out. So
Yeah.
any kind of last final things to put out, a bow on the last week's game.
Yeah, the only thing that I would kind of add to that, Cole, is just that it looked like the team wasn't. Um, I think the word I'm looking for is the continuity wasn't there. Like Keon Hatcher made his return from the Achilles injury that he suffered at Princess Auto Field, formerly IG Field. TJ Lee, of course, made his return before the bye against Calgary, but that was Keon's first game. And now, even before that, it was really two or three games where Alex Hollins, Justin McInnes, last week, Keon weren't all on the same page as Vernon Adams. So I'm interested to see if one, two, I mean, heck, hopefully all three are able to get on the same page with Jake Dolegala and take it from there. Maybe score some points through the air.
All right, so let's get into moving forward. Let's, like I said, burn the tape on the Winnipeg game, Blake. From now on, we do not remember this game. We do not talk about this game. And if Coach Shane brings it up on the weekly show, we don't remember. We got short-term memory loss, and we're on to, as Coach Belichick likes to say, we're on to Edmonton. We're on to the next week. So let's get on to this matchup ahead. Playing on Sunday versus Edmonton Elks. 4 o'clock kickoff in Commonwealth. The Elks are, riding a little bit of a high now that they've got their first victory. Trey Ford's give them a little bit of spark, as well as, former Lions, Jarius Jackson, G. Roy Simon taking over in the departure of Chris Jones. So, I think let's start with, probably where every Lions fan wants to start with, the big news of Vernon Adams. It appears that we have avoided disaster, and that he's going to be week to week is what Coach Campbell has been calling it, which is, I think, a great thing for Lions fans because, like we talked about on the weekly show again, Blake, seeing him get carted off the field, seeing some of those clips post game,
Yeah.
it was not a good looking sign. And I'm glad that hopefully, after 24 hours, whatever, the swelling went down a little bit. They got some X-rays, and it looks a lot better in there. So, personally, I guess let's not get kind of long term. Let's get let's stick on kind of Vernon Adams here, and save maybe a conversation I have for maybe an off season. I'm sure you might have an idea of what I'm talking about, but um, Vernon Adams, when do you think, he's listed as week to week? When do you think is a smart timeline to bring him back? Do you think it's, maybe smart thing, Winnipeg's coming to town next week, with, the season series now being 1-1. Is it a important time for, Vernon Adams to, even if he's not 80%, 100%, if he's close to, 80, 90%, he needs to go in that game? Or do you think it's maybe the Lions can maybe afford to, stumble here a few weeks, collect themselves, and really, get healthy for this back-to-back versus Ottawa, who's, playing in a heck of a ball game. It looks like are going to lose, unfortunately, but a team that's 5-2, going to be 5-3 now, if I'm not mistaken, after this one. If the results kind of stick, or I guess if Lawler hits this field goal, but a team that's, I feel like, very competitive, and a team that's playing with house money a little bit. We talked about that as well with Shane,
Yep.
right? About the expectations of them being around the bottom of the league the last few years, right? Let's call a spade, right? Not very.
Absolutely.
I believe they've had eight total wins in the last is it two years or something like that. So
Yeah,
um,
something like that.
this year they've already almost matched their win total by Labor Day. So I
They
would
did.
say
I think they beat their win total from the last 2 years.
right. So I think this is already a positive and a plus season for Ottawa. That being said, they're professionals, and they're going to want to, try to win a Grey Cup this year, and try to do as best as possible. They're going to try to. They're not thinking like us that they're playing with house money in a sense, right? So I think Ottawa's going to be very hungry and very motivated to prove. We talked about that with Shane, right? Of legitimizing some of their wins this season with beating a BC Lions with Vernon Adams back, right? So the question I guess I'll throw back to you, Blake, is when do you think it's smart for the Lions to bring back Vernon Adams?
Do you want my hopeful answer, or do you want what I think is going to be the realistic answer?
Give me both, I guess.
Okay, I'll start with my hopeful answer. My hopeful answer is that I hope he's healthy enough to play in the game against Winnipeg next week, but I don't think that is a realistic goal. I think that he hasn't practiced either one of yesterday or today. I don't think they're going to throw him out basically 2.5 weeks after the injury, especially if he doesn't practice next week either. I would say the most likely scenario is either one of those Ottawa games, whether it's the game in Ottawa or, of course, Touchdown Pacific. So yeah, I would definitely say that I think it's one of the back to backs against Ottawa. I'm hopeful that it's next week against Winnipeg, but I don't believe it will be.
Yeah, I'm right with you there. I think hoping, and obviously we haven't seen how Jake Delagal is going to perform yet on Sunday, but hoping for VA to be ready. I think just it's probably too important long term that, like I was talking about, Saskatchewan has kind of stumbled here, allowing BC. I feel like this kind of room for error to lose a few games here with the room for error with the lead that they built now ahead of them with Winnipeg and Calgary behind them. Even if Saskatchewan were to jump ahead of them by a game or two, I really feel like you know they're going to have their opportunity to face Saskatchewan head to head. Saskatchewan will go through some trial and error and lose a game or two that maybe they shouldn't, and will give BC, I think, an opportunity to win that number one seed. I think where it does get a little bit risky is if maybe he doesn't make it back until the touchdown Pacific game, which is I believe 3 games from now. And if they
Yeah.
were to lose that, then maybe that's a little bit too much to get the first seed. I think you're in play for a playoff spot regardless of if you go, even if you go on a kind of a 4 or 5 game slide here. But obviously, you don't want to have that happen and then try to fix things on the fly. I'm expecting this team to bounce back in some capacity. This is a very good roster, right? Like, well, let's remember that. We saw this last year. Kind of in the same similar fashion, right? Dane Evans going into Edmonton was able to shut out the Elks with the weapons around him and stuff like that. The defense was able to do their part. I'm not expecting the same caliber of play from Jake Delagala than that Dane Evans was able to give us. But that being said, I think with the weapons on offense, hopefully that RP has a game plan that's ready for Trey Ford. Like I mentioned, I believe it was later in the season, one of Trey's visits to BC Place, or no, it wasn't actually. It must
It
have been
was
in
at
Edmonton. Like,
Commonwealth.
yeah, that they did a great job of not letting him out of the pocket, not letting him be an athlete, really trying to make him beat him down the field. And with the secondary that we had last year was very tough for him. So curious to see how RP kind of game plans for him and if they can keep it close defensively after probably this group unfortunately probably didn't get enough credit for what they did in Winnipeg, keeping the team in there, and how many field goals they held the Bombers to, punts early on. The Bombers and BC were trading punts back and forth there early on for a little bit until Winnipeg settled in a little bit. So curious to see how that happens. So let's get to as you mentioned, Blake, receiver. Right, you talked about Keon Hatcher making his debut last week. Made a, I don't know if I want to say impact because we weren't getting first downs, but he made his presence
Made
known.
his catches.
He made his presence known pretty quick, right? I believe he got a catch. Either it was on the first or second drive of the game, and a little short. I believe it was a little out route towards the sideline where he got a catch, kind of got a feel, and made some more catches. I think he wanted. I believe he finished with 3 or 4 receptions. Nothing too big. Obviously, with 104 total net yards offense, that there are probably not going to be too many eye popping stats. So for me, I talked about it with you guys on the weekly show of wondering if VA just looked very flustered, very
Yep.
off, very confused. Which all credit to Winnipeg, right? They have some good players on that side, but I really don't. I don't want to give them too much credit. I feel like I don't know if maybe I'm trying to scapegoat this a little bit more, but I'm curious what your thoughts are, and maybe people that are listening, right? Where Justin McInnis all season has been having he leads the CFL, I believe, still in receiving in a lot of categories
I think Tyson
into the year.
might have passed him for yards, but he if not in the lead, he's number two.
Yes, and he's going to have his opportunity to this week to respond, right? So um, with that, all season, right? In the boundary. For those that aren't familiar with when I'm speaking about the boundary, the boundary is the short side of the field. So if the ball is on the left hash, the left side of the field would be the boundary side of the field. The right would be the wide side, the field side. You'll hear commentators and stuff like that refer to it. Where in the boundary, you usually put your two best playmakers, receivers. Alex Hollins has been our boundary receiver all season. Justin McInnis has been our boundary slot all season and been phenomenal all year. And rightfully so. Keon Hatcher has that's been his spot since he's been a BC Lion, is the boundary slot back position, and he rightfully so, goes back to that position. But I wonder if that maybe just threw things for a loop. Maybe I'm overthinking things, or maybe looking too deep into this small detail. But Justin McInnes going back to the field, right? Maybe what I'm thinking, Blake, is not to maybe just go a little bit more into details like Keon Hatcher is a great receiver, right? So it's not a minus because of who you're putting in there, but it's
Hmm.
because of, let's say that VA is used to Justin McInnes' speed running a deep in route, like we've seen all year, right? Him running those kind of
Yeah.
over the middle of the field balls, right? Where Keon Hatcher just runs at a different speed than Justin McInnes, right? So the timing is just a little bit off, right? Where he understands to like Justin McInnes is going to be open now, and then Keon Hatcher is going to be open in a different period, right? They just are two different receivers. Justin McInnes is a taller gazelle type, right? Not to kind of not to be too joking, but what are your thoughts on that? And do you think maybe I'm looking a little bit too much into that detail?
Yeah, no, all I was gonna say on that is that to be completely frank, like anyone that has access to Google knows this is true. Keon's older, so like once you get to a certain age, that that speed kind of leaves you. So Justin is faster. I hadn't looked too much into it, so I might have to agree with you a bit and say that maybe move Keon to the inside and then have Justin move back to the boundary side. But like I said, I hadn't looked into that enough. Also, you're a lot more the X's and O's guys. I will fully admit, even on my own coaching staff with the New Westminster Hayaks, that is not my job, like at all. My job is to do the stats. That's it. So, so when it's kind of the X's and O's, I would refer to you more for that. But I think it's something that Coach Campbell, Coach Maximic might want to look into for sure.
I think definitely something to look into. I would definitely give them another opportunity, right? Keon Hatcher has earned that boundary slot position, right? He is a bona fide. We talked about that as well. Who was the number one receiver in the CFL, and the one of the first names that came to mind still is Keon Hatcher. For me personally, just biasly, we've been able to watch him more up close and personal. Number one, and then just I've watched every game that he's been a BC Lion. Compared to some of these receivers where I'm only catching 7, 8 games a year, right? Where some of these receivers, in the East, and Tim White. I'm not unfortunately canceling plans on a Saturday night to watch Hamilton every Saturday night, right? Sometimes I have stuff to do and just don't make it happen, right? Whereas BC Lions games, I'm usually canceling plans. I'm making sure I'm able to watch the game. So been able to watch Keon Hatcher, and he's earned that spot at that boundary slot back position as well as Alex Hollins. Those are our two best receivers, which is crazy to say because Justin McInnes is on the team, which is unbelievable to say, honestly.
Yep.
As a
No, I agree with you.
Lions fan and Lions supporter, you should be proud and happy that we can say something like that because but I think there was questions. Do we have a number one receiver coming into the season without Keon Hatcher? And I think honestly we might have three. Like to be honest, like I think Alex Hollins has kind of proved himself to be a bona fide boundary receiver and being able to put up productive stats. We've seen 200 games from him 200-yard games from him this season, etc. Justin McInnes has proven that as well. So a luxury of options in the receiving core. Let's get to the offensive line here quickly. And something that I was a little bit, we've been talking about it for a little bit, right, on the weekly show of Couture coming back and the money that he's
Yep.
owed, right, being a higher paid offensive lineman. I don't know exactly where he falls, but he was on the 3 downs top 15 highest paid offensive lineman coming to the season. I believe he was somewhere around the 15 to 10 range. I don't believe he was top 10, but still a very highly paid offensive lineman in the league, right? And he on the 6 game injured list along with um, David Neville. And Tyler Packer and Chris Slugger came into the fold for the Lions and have played very well. I thought.
Yeah, they
I think
perform.
you would agree, right? I think the best part about them from an offensive line standpoint is like when you don't notice them, right? Like that. That's a good thing as an offensive lineman, right? You don't notice them; they're not holding, right? They're not getting flags. They're not jumping off sides. They're doing their job, right? They're giving Bjorn Adams time up to date. Vernon Adams is the MVP MOP front runner, best quarterback statistically still in the CFL. So they've been doing a great job for him. I think they can maybe do a little bit better job in the run department. But that being said, I think they kind of mess with the feng shui once again, if I can use that word and use
Yeah,
that
no.
correctly. But you know, they've had Tyler Packer who didn't get benched, but he slid over to the left guard spot and filled in for Chris Slugger. But I thought Chris Slugger has been playing very well, and I know he's good friends with Vernon Adams. I believe they've kind of, if not mistaken, they roomed together in Kamloops, if I have that correct, during training camp, which is a pretty cool thing. They built a little bit of a relationship. I believe they had spent some time together in Montreal, so familiar with one another, and a guy that connects with Vernon Adams. I think that could have another impact into why Vernon Adams felt just a little bit uneasy, right? With it might sound a little bit silly, but his guy not being in there, right? Someone that he's familiar with and that had been, I think, playing pretty good. Moj and Julio had been mentioning it that he had been kind of bringing a bit of a nasty streak to the offensive line, a little bit more of a meaner. There's a little bit. I feel like Drell Broxton, Mike Couture, some of those guys are kind of quiet, do your job, kind of lunch pail type of guys. So a guy that's bringing a little bit of edge to the unit, and he gets benched. I believe he made the trip still, but not starting. And they went with Tyler Packer at left guard. From left to right, they went with Drell Broxton at left tackle, Tyler Packer left guard, Mike Couture back at center, Sue Chung at right guard, and then I believe Kent Perkins at right tackle. I'm curious, Blake, if you have maybe any thoughts on that, and you think they can maybe adjust that, or maybe just look into anything in the future.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Cole, that I don't think they're going to bench Couture. He's paid too much money, but is there a way where they can get all three on the offensive line and kind of play with the ratio a little bit? Yeah, maybe there is. So I think that that's something the Lions should look into, where they have Schlegel, Neville, and Couture on the field at the same time. And then if you keep underperforming, whether it happens or not, or sorry, lost my train of thought there. Whether you're highly paid or not, if you're not performing, this is pro sports. Like if you're not performing, take a seat on the bench. We will bring someone that will perform because at the end of the day, all that matters is the big W. And if you're not performing your part, it's that much harder for the team to win.
Yeah, well said, Blake. Well said. So let's get to things defensively, right? Um, I think they've been battling all season. They've been a good unit, but I don't think I can place them in. I don't know about you, Blake, what you would say. I don't know if I could place them in a top four. Maybe I would play. I'd probably maybe I would leave them maybe in that fourth or fifth range. So the muddy middle. I don't know if I could put them up there with the Saskatchewan's. I should mention Montreal. Excuse me first before I mention anybody. But Montreal, Saskatchewan, and then personally, I'm pretty high on Ottawa or Toronto's defense right now, specifically Toronto. I think they're doing a lot of good things up front in
Mhm.
that front seven with Wynton McManus leading them, Fraser Shopik, Canadian, and then Drake Sresna leading the league in sacks. Um, like what they've been doing, and young secondary Royce Mechie, another Canadian, has been kind of coming on once again. And the Lions, as of now, I would think just kind of hang for me, anyways. Outside of that top three, I would have them at four. Basically, kind of just on the fly right now, thinking about things. Um, but where I think that they've been so much better in years past, and why I want more from them, and we've been talking about all year, right? Is the playmaking ability. And I think just the lack of
Mhm.
turnovers a little bit, and it's been down a little bit league wide, so it's maybe forgive
Unless your name's Roland Milligan.
yeah, unless you're on Saskatchewan, honestly, they find a way to turn over the ball like crazy. And just side note here, they're playing actually in overtime. Who I tried to bury Ottawa almost a little bit too quickly here. Ottawa 19 to 13 in overtime. I thought they were going to lose here. They could honestly help out BC once again. Saskatchewan could lose. What is that? 4 of 5, I believe.
4 or 5, 3 in a row.
This could be interesting, folks, and Ryderville could be heating up before we know it, before Labor Day, even in fact, as well. So let's get back to BC Lions talk here on the show. Defense. I was talking about difference makers on defense, right? And I think there's a lot of good players on defense, right? Ben Hladek, leader of the defense. Bo Lacumbo, good player, right? Josh Woods, Pete Robertson, Shihoni Tuhema, right? Gary Peters, TJ Lee, Adrian Green, Deontay Evans. I've actually kind of really liked what I've seen. Patrice Rene. I should not forget to mention him. Adrian Green, Christophe Boyer, we saw got his first start, right? A lot of good players on defense. But I don't know if there's that game changer, that difference maker on defense, like there is in Montreal, right? Where there's Reggie
Ducroix,
Stubblefield, there's Dequoy, there's you know you can keep naming guys, right? Mustafa Johnson, right?
Kavian Ento.
Kavion Ento, right? There's guy after guy, right? That are difference makers, right? Saskatchewan, same thing. Jameer Thurman, Roland Milligan, right? Ton of guys, right? And it's not to say that the BC
Casey
Lions don't have,
Sales.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We're very familiar with his ability, right? Not to say that the Lions don't have talent, they do, but it's that next level of getting the offense the ball back, right? Of you're in a 12-0 game versus Winnipeg where your offense is doing nothing. If you're Gary Peters, if you're TJ Lee, if you're Sonte Evans, you should have a chip on your shoulder to go make a play, go get an interception, go get an interception and take it back to the house, go get an interception and bring it back into reasonable field goal range for Sean White, right? Make a play, and I know it's easier said than done, right? Obviously, I'm armchair quarterbacking, for lack of a better term, right now. It's easier, much easier to be said on camera, but at the same time, you're a professional, right? Like I've been saying a few times here. So go make a play, right? You're paid to do that. You've trained to do that, and believe in your talents and stuff like that. So that's what I want to see more from the BC Lions defense, and I think that'll even turn this team to a new, take this team to another level this season. And down the stretch, if they can kind of find a gear defensively, right? The season is still somewhat early, right? We're about halfway, right? We're kind of in the halfway mark now, week 10, 21 week season. So if you can kind of find your stride here going into the dance, I think things will be good for the Lions. But that's what I'd like to see a little bit more from them, Blake. Is there any kind of thoughts defensively?
Yeah, no, I would just completely agree with pretty much everything you said there, Cole. As this this game that you and I both have an eye on is could be over or could be continuing, depending on how this challenge goes. But
And
yeah, no, the Lions they haven't turned the ball over enough. Like I don't know if you have the stats in front of you, but I would be willing to bet that they have a negative turnover to or gain turnovers to lost turnovers ratio, and that's saying something because as far as I can remember, right off the top of my head right now, VA's only thrown 4 or 5 picks, and they haven't had very many fumbles at all. So if you're still minus when your team's under like a turnover a game, that's on your defense. Your defense needs to have some team meetings. That's on our RP, and I'm sure knowing RP like you and I know him, not necessarily on a personal level, but as a coach, and yes, a little bit on a personal level, he will be the first to admit that. He'll say, we're not doing a good enough job. We're not getting enough sacks as last year. And yes, I get it. David Menard and Matthew Betts both away. But you signed a guy like Christian Covington. He's had what, 2 sacks this year? You have a guy like Pete Robertson. I know he's been hurt the last couple of weeks. He returned to practice today. His status for Sunday's game is still up in the air. So they need to do a better job of not only getting to the quarterback, but also turning the ball over.
yeah, well said, Blake. Well said. So a few things before we get out of here now. Injury report wise, I'm glad Blake mentioned it. The Lions are fairly healthy though, Blake. Outside of Josh Woods, who we lost for the season, Vernon Adams, who's on the week to week basically. Javon Katoy is on his last week on the 6 game injured list, so expect to see Javon Katoy in the coming weeks as well. Another added weapon, which is crazy to think about that we have him coming back as well soon. And other than that, pretty healthy. Defensive line is available. As you mentioned, Pete Robertson returned to practice. I believe he is still,
What
up
did
in the
we
air for a
catch
game
that?
time decision, which Saskatchewan just scored, which is crazy. This game's going to go even longer. Maybe Blake and I need to cut this so we can finish the game here, which is
Yeah,
crazy because
if they get the two, they win. If they don't, it goes to double OT.
we started before overtime, and now the game can be continued after we record. But to go back to a Lions talking point here. Defensively, pretty healthy. I'm curious if Christophe Bouillou is going to get the start once again at safety, and they're going to slide Adrian Green to half. What's going on with maybe Ronald Kent? I don't know. If they have maybe plans to start him once again in the halfback position there, and it'll be interesting to see. We're big Christophe Bouillou fans going up to training camp, getting
Yep.
to look at him pretty early on.
He
We've
was
been
awesome.
big believers of him and his ability, and think he can be the future of the Lions defensive back position, along with Adrian Green as far as Canadians, which is a great thing to say. Did they just miss a 2 point conversion? Yeah, they did. Hey,
Yeah, so it's going to double OT.
yeah, double overtime. Sorry,
They'll
excuse us,
they'll
folks.
they'll switch roles, so the Riders will start on offense, and if the game ends after double OT, then it ends in a tie.
So Blake, let's put a nice little bow on this thing and try to wrap things up so we can finish the end of overtime here. Blake and I made our picks. We are not going to divulge those. You can go watch the weekly show. We're not proud of them, but at the same time, I
Oh,
do have
you saw my tweet, right? Can I change tomorrow's pick?
yeah, you can change tomorrow's pick. That's fine. But we made our picks for Sunday, and I feel like Blake and I are, we aren't, afraid to admit it. We are fans first, right? That's why we are the
Of
Canadian
course.
football fanatics, right? At the, root of things, we are fanatics for this game, right? For the Canadian football. But at the same time, me personally trying to get a media pass. I know Blake's trying to take this a little bit more seriously. The both of us are trying to somewhat put our bias aside, right, when we're picking things
Yeah.
and give you, what we're thinking, right? And this week, we're not proud of it. We are going with the Elks, and I would love to be proven wrong, right?
If I had a
I'm not.
3-1, sorry to cut you off, Cole, but if I had a 3-1 week and that one loss was the Lions winning, I'd be ecstatic.
I'm basically, I guess is like the way I'd put it is like, if I was to bet money, I would take the Elks. If
Yep.
I'm hoping for somebody to win, I'm obviously hoping for the Lions to win, right? Like, I'm not hoping against BC uh to lose, right? So I'm very interested to see. I'm a little bummed, like I mentioned, not going to be able to make the game or watch the game live. I'll probably have to go rewatch it at home afterwards. Going to be at the Victoria Touch Football BSB tournament, the Blood, Sweat, and Beers tournament this weekend. So looking forward to that. Kicking off Saturday morning. Just got the schedule playing at 9 a.m. So going to be an early one for me going down to the drive down to Victoria. I got 4 games Saturday, Blake. Going to come back Saturday night, obviously go capture and cover the VI Raiders game at 5:30, the kickoff that night. And then we have, I believe it's guaranteed 2 games on Sunday, the championship Sunday. And then depending on the time, hopefully I'll be able to get back and capture, catch some of the game and see what's going on. So if we're able to, maybe I'll do a post game. We'll see how I'm feeling. Maybe it'll be last minute and spontaneous. But as of now, no post game, and you will see Blake and I next on Wednesday. Blake, before we get out of here, buddy, any final thoughts on Lions and Elks on Sunday?
No, the only I will quickly, very quickly give one spoiler for our the three keys to the game that you and I both do now. One of my keys, I'm not going to give you guys the other two, but one of my keys is contain Trey Ford. As Shane said on the weekly show, if you keep him in the pocket and make him try and beat you with his arm, you have a lot better shot of beating him in the Edmonton Elks than if he's running rampant on you guys.
Absolutely. Well said. I'm glad you mentioned that as well. Blake, I am not actually going to be doing the 3 keys to the game anymore. I'm going to actually leave that up to you, and I'll post that onto all the social medias from now on. Just taking on a lot of responsibility here lately, with just the graphics
Totally
and
fair.
whatnot. So Blake's been doing a great job with the 3 keys to the game, and I think he's very capable of handling that. So from now on, folks, just look forward to Blake's 3 keys to the game. I'll make sure those are posted on all the social medias and stuff, and we'll go from there. Other than that, like, comment, subscribe as always. Smash the like button, smash the subscribe button, as Blake and I would love for you to do. A last few reminders here on the show. As of today, I know this is going to be released on Saturday, but today being Thursday of the recording, just recorded with Regina Rams offensive coordinator Josh Donnelly. I know recorded with Isaiah Johns, former VI Raiders defensive back, now University of Windsor defensive assistant, defensive back coach. We'll be sitting down with Shamari Williams, UBC defensive coach, tomorrow, Friday, and some more next week going into that week as well, getting ready for our Canada West season preview that'll be releasing as well. So stay tuned for that. Power Rankings 3.0 dropped as well. So feel
I
free to
haven't
go
even
check it.
checked those out yet. I gotta go
Feel,
do that.
feel free to go check out the graphic on the social medias. And then, like I mentioned, there is a little, I believe it's a 30-minute video on kind of my explanation on, why I have each team kind of where, and just a quick little, I believe people in the comments, sometimes I'm not able to capture all of what I want to say. So I feel like instead I can just say, go watch the video instead of trying to, comment back at me. This is how I'm feeling. And, I like kind of the debate as well. I think that's the good thing about power rankings. And personally, why I do it on more of a monthly basis, not just get the like the clicks out of it, right? I don't put it out to,
Yep.
get a ton of reaction on a week to week basis because some team moved up this many spots. I do it more on a month to month basis because I think I want to have the best like overall opinion and view on where I think teams are slated, and get a little bit more of a bird's eye view instead of just on a week to week basis. I do it more every 4 or 5 weeks, and I think that's a little bit better for a long term view. So Blake, let's go enjoy the game, buddy. We will see you guys Wednesday night for the Canadian Football Fanatics Weekly Show. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight and enjoy the weekend.
Thanks, guys.